Hello and welcome to the Lost Media Chronicles, a show of which discusses various lost movies, music, art, you name it. You know, animals' rights activists can be a little obnoxious sometimes, can't they? You're a murderer if you eat meat, a slave owner if you own pets, or even a rapist if you're a farmer. But every now and then they bring up an important issue that holds water, and today's topic is one of those issues. This is the story of Tilikum the orca and the Brancheau death footage. Tilikum was the largest captive orca in the world from the early 80s until his death earlier this year. He's controversial due to his violent outbursts, which has resulted in the deaths of 2, maybe even 3 people, depending on what eyewitness reports you believe. Our story starts in 1983 when he was captured at just the age of 2 in Iceland. After a year in captivity in Reykjavik, Tilly was transferred to SeaWorld of the Pacific in Oak Bay, British Columbia, Canada. He was kept in small enclosures overnight and was frequently bullied by the female orca. It's at this location that Tilikum would make his first suspected kill. On February 20th, 1991, Kilty Byrne, a 20-year-old marine biology student, was working part-time at the park. During her shift, she slipped and fell into the water. In the pool were Tilikum and 2 female orca named Haida and Nootka. It's unknown which whale was the one that instigated the violence, as eyewitness reports contradicted each other, but most of them pointed to Tilikum as the initiator due to his collapsed dorsal fin. Kelly was thrashed around and submerged several times. Eventually she drowned, leading to a PR nightmare that led to the park's much-needed shutdown. It's rumored that the attack was captured on camera, but this is yet to be confirmed, with uploads on YouTube claiming to be the real thing actually being of other incidents. After SeaWorld of the Pacific closed down, SeaWorld of Orlando, Florida ended up buying Tilikum due to his tremendous size. Upon purchase in 1992, the company assured the whale would not be used in shows, stating that the incident was far too stimulating for him to not want to eventually repeat it. They claimed their intention was to use Tilly as a breeder, hoping to get larger whales from his sperm. While they did use him as a breeder, he was used in shows, with SeaWorld going back on their word. Another incident happened in the mid-90s when a show was being filmed intended for release as promotional material. During the performance, Tilikum lunged out of the water towards a trainer, but missed and apparently was captured on tape. The trainers were told to get rid of the tape, and one particular trainer wanted to save it for posterity and even edited Tilikum's attack out. However, SeaWorld still demanded the destruction of the tape. Unless secretly saved by a trainer, it is likely lost forever. Trainers were puzzled towards why SeaWorld didn't want any of that footage released, as if SeaWorld was trying to hide something. Tilikum remained mostly peaceful until another incident in 1999. Daniel P. Dukes, a 27-year-old drifter, broke into SeaWorld Orlando and decided to skinny dip in Tilikum's tank. Dukes' body was found the next morning covered in bites, mutilated, and the genitals bitten off. Tilikum had Dukes' corpse draped over his body, parading him around. SeaWorld told news outlets that Dukes had died of hypothermia, and the resultant mutilation was just Tilly playing with the dead body. Future reports pointed to forceful drowning being the cause of death. Whether Tilly was the cause is unconfirmed, but strongly suspected. Unlike the other 2 deaths caused by Tilly, this particular one can be attributed to Dukes' foolish decision-making. If you ask any marine biologist, he did the equivalent of breaking into a tiger den in the middle of the night. Nobody knows how Dukes got past the night watchman and security cameras, but it was suspected to be caught on tape. SeaWorld employees took photographs of Tilly with Dukes' body draped on his back for reference. Neither of these have been leaked to the public. Despite the massive controversy, SeaWorld continued to use Tilikum in shows. In 2010, the most notorious incident occurred. On February 24th, during a Dine with Shamu show, tragedy struck. The whole day was a mess to begin with. Trainers noted that the whales were not cooperating across the park. Determined to still give a great show, senior trainer Brancheau approached the situation with a positive attitude. She was a notorious perfectionist and safety guru, filming many of her shows for reference. Being Tilly's main trainer, she knew his personality and behavior like the back of her hand. At first, Tilly and Dawn clicked perfectly. It was looking like the show was going to be saved. During one particular trick, where Tilikum was supposed to wave his pectoral fin and swim around the perimeter of the tank, things took a turn for the worst. Brancheau blew her whistle for Tilly to return, but he did not hear it, therefore he overperformed. When he returned to Dawn's podium, he was not met with the reward of fish, a common consequence for disobedience in animal training. In Tilly's mind, he had performed the trick perfectly and was upset that he was not rewarded for his work. The show ended and Brancheau did a one-on-one with Tilly to bond. He grabbed Brancheau's arm and dragged her into the water. She was thrashed about and partially eaten by the whale. Even after she died of blunt force trauma, Tilly refused to let go of her body. Rescuers even tried the most aggressive tactics that usually work in such situations, to no avail. Footage of Brancheau's death does exist, but it's never been leaked online. There is one, possibly even two tapes. One was caught by underwater security cameras and has been withheld from public viewing by both SeaWorld and Brancheau's family. SeaWorld has made a public statement on the matter saying that it wouldn't help to clear up any confusion about the incident, it would just raise more questions. Another was a video taken by a spectator, possibly someone Brancheau asked in particular to film the show for reference. That video has been leaked, but it stops a few seconds before Tilikum drags her into the water. It's unknown if that is where the cameraman himself stopped, or if the rest of the footage has been withheld as well. This time the story made international headlines. SeaWorld was in trouble. The park fought tooth and nail, saying that Dawn was at fault for her own death. They tried to blame it on her ponytail, which isn't even what she was dragged by. On top of that, dozens of these trainers have had ponytails before, and none of them were ever attacked. They also tried to blame it on poor interaction with the animal, which is also likely not the case, as she was usually the one to correct others on proper etiquette. Once again, the woman was a perfectionist and a safety guru. SeaWorld was trying desperately to keep the positive, cutesy nature of the animals in order to keep sales high. Then the documentary Blackfish came out, and the negative publicity was off the walls. With the documentary being commonly available on Netflix, it was no longer just people tuning into CNN and MSNBC that were aware of SeaWorld's problem. SeaWorld tried desperately to bury the documentary to no avail. So if Dawn was doing everything correctly in accordance to her job, why did Tilikum lash out? The answer lies in understanding orca behavior. These animals are extraordinarily intelligent. They have their own language and methods of communication. They constantly need stimulation to satisfy their complex brains. An orca was placed into an MRI and an astonishing discovery was found. Their emotional receptors are twice to maybe even 5 times as complex to that of humans. So when an orca mourns, it mourns with 5 times the intensity. When it's happy or excited, it's 5 times as excited. When it's angry or vengeful, well, you get the picture. These whales are used to having a vast oceanic network to roam in. They're being kept in tanks that are so small, they leave the whales with very little stimulation. So we get these intelligent animals with constant bottled up emotions with no outlets. On top of that, they bully each other, as whales from different families often don't get along, and these parks like to intermix them. They'll attack each other and in some cases kill each other out of sheer boredom. After hearing this, you're probably not surprised to hear that this isn't the first time an orca has lashed out against a human being in captivity. Even the most famous orca that helped put SeaWorld's name on the map, the first Shamu, lashed out against a trainer in 1971. While it's commonly attributed to the trainer wearing a 2-piece swimsuit instead of the full 1-piece wetsuit, SeaWorld tried to bury the event under the floorboards. The subsequent decades saw more than 70 violent lashings of orca against humans in parks around the world, with SeaWorld being the subject of at least 30. In the wild, there is no known record of orca attacking humans. A lot of people hear about this and think that the trainers are just as responsible as SeaWorld itself. However, we need to keep in mind SeaWorld never notified the trainers of the dangers of working with orca. According to Blackfish and many of the trainers that had come forward, SeaWorld kept the incidents hidden from their employees. When employees did hear about them, the company always blamed the trainers involved. There's footage of these attacks taking place. There's one where a man is crushed between two whales, which may have been an accident. In another, a woman is dragged by her arm into the water and the whale doesn't stop until a park employee opens the gate to one of the bully whales. One of the most frightening ones involves a man being repeatedly dragged underwater by his leg. He keeps calm the entire time and somehow gets away, but then we see the whale lunge over the net as the man springs out of the pool. More tapes are suspected to exist of these attacks, with SeaWorld likely withholding that footage as well. Now, with that being said, SeaWorld isn't some bloodthirsty evil corporation only interested in money. The company has put immense effort into rescuing sea life and cleaning up oceans. On top of that, they have been credited with helping to raise awareness of pollution and climate change. What went wrong is that by the time orca were commonly kept in captivity, science was just barely starting to understand the behavior of these complex creatures. It took a really long time to apply that science into keeping them in captivity. As SeaWorld started to realize that it would be far too expensive to properly care for these animals and turn a profit, they attempted to bury this problem. No company is perfect, and this is a really big sin on their part, but it needs to be kept in mind that the company has done some good. There are hefty consequences that SeaWorld had to pay for this. First off, after a long court battle, OSHA demanded that there always be a barrier between trainers and orca to avoid future attacks. On top of that, SeaWorld's stocks started to fall and less people were coming into their parks. Last year, SeaWorld finally caved and announced that it would discontinue its orca breeding and training program. The whales that it currently has in captivity will be the final ones. Many people think that releasing the whales would also serve as a solution. A few orca have been released back into the wild, but found themselves unable to fend for themselves, having been under the care of humans for far too long. The simple truth of the matter is, the remaining whales are best kept in captivity. Sadly, Tilly passed away earlier this month. After killing Brancheau, he was spending much of his time alone, and only spent a small fraction of his time performing. He was only 35 years old, just a little bit over half the minimum age these animals live in the wild. Yet another fact that SeaWorld tries to suppress. Tilikum's story remains a haunting reminder that man does not control nature. As nature continues to receive abuse from man, nature will continue to fight back. And with that, we are out of time. Join us next time when I finally do talk about that terrible music artist that I said I would review last time. Sorry guys, it's just taken me a little bit longer and this proved to be a little bit more relevant. And Fred agrees. See you later. Hello guys, and thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw here, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video if you want to see more just like it. Also, be sure to check out previous episodes of the Lost Media Chronicles and Adventures in Vinyland. And please check out my unboxing video. I put so much work into it and nobody's watching it. Thanks again, and I'll see you later.